Hey there, Allison again with my in-depth analysis of Under the Skin, the 2014 film by Jonathan Glazer starring Scarlett Johansson. Before I start, I want to point out that I'm a little bit sick, so I might sound a bit funny. But anyways, I want to start out by talking about the director a bit. Jonathan Glazer has been compared to Stanley Kubrick often, and I definitely see the parallels. Even though this is the only film of his I've seen, I have downloaded his other films, and I'll give them a watch. This film has a score that reminds me very strongly of The Shining, and some of the visuals are similar to those in The Shining, such as that conveyor belts of blood being similar to the blood coming out of the elevator in The Shining. Glazer has hinted that much of this film is deliberately left up to interpretation, and I believe this is obvious, so I'll focus on the small amount that seems absolute. And I have actually read the novel of the same name by Michel Faber, so I'll be pointing out a few things that are the same between the two, but there are very few. Now, I'll usually jump into analysis first, but I'm actually going to sort of talk about what actually happens in the film, since so much of this movie is vague and abstract and mysterious. The opening seems to show what is only referred to in the credits as the female practicing human speech. There's all these images of geometric shapes forming into a human eye, which I think is supposed to be the alien taking a human form. Who knows if this is meant to be some abstract representation or a literal representation of some multidimensional being taking on a three-dimensional form. This is also a visual homage to Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey. Next, we see the motorcyclist man. In the novel, the woman alien works with several men. In this loose adaptation, I believe him and the other motorcyclists we see later are her alien co-workers. He is picking up what looks like a dead woman. As the female undresses her, we see her eyes are wide open, and she sheds a tear. I'm willing to bet that this woman was the last alien female doing her mission. She isn't dead, but somehow immobilized or deactivated. Also, seeing as how this scene takes place right before the short scene of UFOs in the sky, I'm assuming this scene takes place on an alien craft, hence why everything is so eerily white. I'm not sure what the significance is of the ant the female picks up, but it seems like it may be foreshadowing since the black ant is visually similar to how the aliens look under their human skin. Since the rest of the film is pretty straightforward, I'll jump into the themes. I'll start with the theme of predation first, since it is the most immediately relevant. It is clear that the female is a predator. She stalks men in her van with a blank stare. She uses her sexuality as a spider's web to ensnare them. Her young virile male victims are totally and completely disarmed by her beauty. There are even some instances where they seem to realize that this isn't right, yet they still follow the female into her home. Even the way she asks them probing questions about their personal life would be completely strange if anyone other than an attractive young female were asking them. Some even momentarily notice how decrepit and derelict her house is, but ignore it in hopes of sex. In any other situation, a man would be suspicious or run. I've heard another review of this film comment on how these men are literally following their erections to their death, and it's true. They don't even take their eyes off the female as they submerge into the mysterious liquid floor. The only man who is even slightly able to avoid this total spell is the man with the facial deformity. He is suspicious from the start because he has never been given this type of attention before. He's the only one who even observes his surroundings once he is in the house and the female is undressing. She even has to go fully nude to keep him distracted. She also seems a little bit agitated by him being distracted. The whole relationship of her as a predator and men as prey gets totally flipped after she goes rogue. She becomes the prey of a man and ultimately meets the same fate as the men she caught. We see how the bald man is chasing her in the woods just like a predator hunting. It is interesting how in the forest where she is attacked, there are reflective ponds of rainwater that are a visual callback to the place where her victims were killed. She starts as a predator. The audience hates her, especially after that horrifying scene at the beach where she takes the swimmer and leaves the crying baby to die. This scene is especially disturbing because she is adopting the form of a woman, and it is so jarring and alien to see a woman indifferent to the suffering of a baby. She later becomes the prey, and we feel sympathy for her after seeing her try to be human and fail, and she becomes as helpless as that baby on the beach. On a side note, the man who killed her is similar to the man who sexually assaults the female's character in the novel. In the novel, he is also bald and wearing heavy overalls, but the overalls are yellow, and in the film, he is given a yellow reflective jacket. Alright, the next theme is human nature and the duality of man. Oddly enough, just saying the duality of man reminds me of Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket. I'm sure that it's not a coincidence. We see the duality in the two main men that the female meets. The first is completely selfless and kind. He cooks for her and gives her a private, heated room and completely leaves her alone. He makes no advances on her. He even takes her on a date and carries her over a deep puddle, getting his shoes and pants all wet. This man is the complete opposite of the man that she meets in the woods, who, as we know, has no concern for her well-being and immediately tried to molest and rape her. And not only that, but his first reaction upon discovering that she is an alien is to set her on fire. Human nature is also important to the female as she changes throughout the film. There are lengthy scenes devoted to the female observing humans. At first, it is clear that she is just looking for suitable male victims. This is similar to the novel in how she judges which males are fit enough for use. As the film progresses, she moves on to observing children, women, and how people eat, socialize, smoke, and enjoy themselves. Lastly, this film is an abstract type of coming-of-age tale. The female starts as a total alien to humanity in every sense. The strongest way this is shown is in her total indifference to the entire family drowning on the beach. The swimmer passes out, and we hope she's going to help him as the baby cries in the background. But instead, she bashes him over the head with a rock and leaves the baby for dead. When I first saw this, I was enraged, disgusted, and upset. Of course, when you feel these things while watching a film, you can bet it was the director's intention, if he's a good one. I've heard many other reviews and analysis of this film, remarking on how disturbing and horrifying this scene was. Apparently, many people even left the theater at this point. This is made even more disturbing when the motorcycle man returns to retrieve the female's jacket, and the baby's still there. The audience's hope is restored again that he will be helped, but we're let down even harder when the man is just as indifferent to his helpless cries. People remarked on how unnecessary and appalling this scene is. I agree that it's appalling, but not altogether unnecessary. What could possibly be more unhuman than disregarding the suffering of an infant? Even someone who dislikes kids can see how strange and unrelatable this is. Not only does this scene serve as a good way to show just how unhuman these aliens are, it's also a brilliant way to be horrifying and subtle. Like I said, I've heard many people remark on how disturbing this scene is and how it got under people's skin. This sort of goes back into how the themes and the way it's filmed and the score of this film gets under your skin. People said that they were thinking about it days afterwards. Anyways, after this scene, we see the female hearing and looking pensively at a crying baby in the car next to her. Perhaps she was pondering that baby back on the beach. She overhears the radio news discussing the missing family. I'm sure this scene is in here because she's realizing that it was the family she saw. After she lures the man with the facial deformity into her trap, she catches a mirror and ponders her reflection. Maybe she's thinking about all the compliments about her appearance these male victims paid her, and wondering what about her face is attractive and how the man's facial deformity has affected him. She sees the fly trapped in her house trying to escape and sympathizes even more with this man. After this, she probably knows she'll be in some serious trouble for letting him out with her boss, so she goes rogue and decides to adopt a human life. She tries eating and fails. She tries making love and fails. She examines her nude body, probably wondering what being a human might really be like. When she's in the hiker's cabin in the woods, she feels cold, and of course she dies violently at the hands of a violent rapist. In a way, she was able to find the human experience she was seeking. She experienced kindness, love, hatred, comfort, discomfort, fear, and death. A film like this could be interpreted in a million different ways, despite the simplicity of the narrative. It's funny how the more bare and minimalist a film is, the more you want to know about it. It's almost like how something is scarier if you don't know exactly what it is. Your mind desperately wants to fill in the blanks. That's probably the only criticism of this film that I might have, is that it's almost too minimal. I was, left really wanting to know more about everything, which is one of the main reasons why I rushed to read the book afterwards, which, on a side note, you can find that on YouTube. Somebody has uploaded the full audiobook for it, so that's great. But anyways, that's about all I saw in this film in terms of theme. Some other small notes I wanted to make is that much of the scenes in this film were filmed in real locations with real people who sign waivers later. The scenes where the female is picking up the men feature actual men picked up off the streets. The director was sitting there in the back of that van. That's probably partially why the dialogue is so hard to understand. I don't mind it though, because it almost adds to the idea that she's an alien in a new world. And as an American, it is, kind of interesting to see new locations and new people, as opposed to like all these movies are always filmed somewhere in the United States, New York or San Francisco or LA or something like that. It's something different for me. And a sort of funny fact is that the scene where the female falls was shot in public too. And I actually remember when this happened. It was so long ago. It was like a huge internet meme, and everyone was photoshopping everything imaginable into that picture. No one had any idea she was filming, a movie, and it was actually a performance. And I definitely didn't either. And it's kind of funny. It's almost like, of course, a celebrity goofs up in public, and it's not real. But anyways, that was really all I was, I'm surprised I was able to tease out so much of material from such a simple movie, and I don't want to make this video too long. So thank you so much for watching. Feel free to engage me in the comments with any questions or suggestions for other movies. Hit like and subscribe if you like this content. Thanks again, and please keep watching movies.